Senator Williams, the governor made sanctuary cities an emergency item. If it's such an emergency, why wouldn't he call you back for that?
Well, you'll have to ask him that. I'm not saying he will or he won't. I think it's a very important bill. I think it's also important that it be coupled with the elements that were in Senate Bill 9. That was a Homeland Security bill.
This has been your priority this session.
I think both issues are priority, and one doesn't work without the other. And, you know, it's been interesting that we've had a parade of people from Washington coming down here to say that we don't have a problem. Everybody's got some information on their desk. This is on your table. This is from the Department of Public Safety. We have a problem on our border, and it's a problem not just for the border, but for the whole state. And so that was a bill that once I was appointed chair of the committee, I spent months traveling along the border trying to determine what the problem was and how do we solve it. Right. I think we came up with a good solution. It was a solution that was supported by 5 Hispanic senators, many of whom represent border regions. I work closely with my colleagues there, and I think
You're referring to SB 9 here specifically, not Homeland, not the Sank Cities bill.
That's correct.
Right.
And I think you have to have both of those things working together. I think they were separate issues. I've kept them separate, and it's my intention to do that.
There's a story circulating around the Capitol, and I always hesitate before I start something that way, that you had a deal with Senator Hinojosa to kill Sank Cities when it came over to the Senate. Is
that sounds like the echo chamber. That's not true.
So you and Chewy did not have a deal going into this to kill the Sank Cities deal?
Absolutely not.
So then can you explain why, again, Sank Cities is an emergency item. You know, it's got overwhelming support in the House. Are the 12 Democrats, this is one of the only instances in which the Democrats will have been able to exert their numbers to kill something. Are they going to ultimately kill this deal? I mean, in a special, if there's no blocker bill, I guess you all have the ability to deal with Sank Cities, but it would have to be put on an agenda.
I think that's a question you need to ask the Democrat senators who are blocking it. And clearly, that's what's happened. We got the bill very late in the session, and that always, when you have a compressed timeline, it makes it harder to get the issue rolling and get support for it. So.
Are you surprised that you didn't have the votes for it? I mean, it looked coming up the street that you didn't have the 12 votes, that the 12 votes were going to stay together.
From the beginning of the session, I knew this issue, the sanctuary cities issue, was one that was going to be difficult. And I've pleaded with the governor's office to help us get those extra couple of votes that we need. And I think what most people are upset about with the sanctuary cities bill is what's not in it. Because really it's a very simple bill that just simply says we're going to have a uniform policy across the state, and that policy is we're not going to prohibit law enforcement officers from asking someone about their immigration status if they're lawfully detained. And so this is not an Arizona style, this is a Texas style bill. I've tried to be very sensitive. It's interesting to me, when I traveled to El Paso, and I made 2 trips out there, on the last trip I made with Senator Rodriguez, there was a lot of concern from the local officials about sanctuary cities. Yep. And I asked them, what is your policy? Well, you know what? Their policy is the same thing that's in our bill, yet they still oppose. And I think it's the rhetoric that's getting in the way of good public policy here.